All eyes have been on the street protests in Athens and the political machinations in the Parliament. But are those clouds of tear gas really just obscuring the deeper problems within the Greek bailout? Well, I'm joined now from Westpac's London office by James Shugg. James, welcome to the programme.
It's great to be here, Ticky.
Well, obviously a huge day for Greece today, but the vote on these austerity measures, is it really what the market is worried about?
Well, the market is certainly pricing in the vote being passed. The optimism that we're seeing in share markets, we're up again strongly today on the basis of that assumption, I think, though, is really misplaced. I mean, just because the austerity measures are passed, it doesn't mean they're actually going to be achieved. The very reason that the Greeks are rioting in the streets is because they don't want these austerity measures. The reason the bailout package that was put together last year ran out a year early was because the government couldn't achieve the budget deficit reduction plans that it put in place a year ago. I have to put this bluntly, but Greeks really do not pay taxes. There's a culture of avoiding taxes in Greece. The government successfully cut spending because it didn't have any money to spend, but they couldn't raise the tax revenues they were required to. They didn't even get 25% of what they budgeted. And so even if these measures are passed, the risk is that they actually are not successful and that ultimately we'll have to go through this process again.
Well, of course, a very famous fellow a long time ago said, "I fear the Greeks." But if you're right, and if indeed the hoi polloi cannot stomach these sorts of cuts, we also have on the other side the EU's top economic official, Olli Rehn, warning that there is no plan B, riots or no riots. What happens then?
Well, I think he's right in the sense that there's probably no plan B for Greece and even Ireland and Portugal. I mean, I suspect that ultimately we are going to see the debt restructured of those economies, those governments, with significant losses, maybe creditors getting back something like only 30 cents in the euro. The plan B that they're not really talking about, though, is protecting Spain, is preventing the contagion that's going to flow from this from hitting the Spanish economy. The Spanish economy is
that surely involves a delay in any default, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Look, this is all about kicking the can down the road. You know, next month Greece runs out of money. It can't pay its public sector workers. In August, they will default if they don't get this next round of bailout funds. This is a band-aid measure, though. I mean, it's not too far down the track that they'll run out of money again. Look, the average tax increase for a Greek family is something like €3,000. That's the average monthly income for a family. They just aren't going to wear that. The measures are not going to be successful.
What about the privatisations that have been announced? The Greeks looking to sell everything from post offices, electricity and gas monopolies to chunks of its own Greek coastline. Are there any interested buyers at all, or is the whole issue now of sovereign risk too big?
It's a great question because, who would want to buy the assets of an economy that is going to be in recession, is in recession and is going to remain in recession on some forecasts for some years to come? The Greeks can't devalue their currency to work their way out of recession that way. And the aggressive cuts in government spending certainly aren't going to help either. So really, there really is no solution to this, Ticky. That's the bottom line. It's all about kicking the can down the road, putting band-aids across the cracks as they appear. Hopefully at some future point when this thing really does blow up and we have to see a debt restructure, the banks in Europe are actually in a bit better shape such that they can actually withstand it. If it were to happen today, the banking system in Europe would really face serious difficulties.
Let me ask you one on the IMF. Australia, of course, backed the other bloke, the Mexican governor, Agustin Carstens, but Christine Lagarde has now got the big job. Big job indeed, big challenge ahead for her.
Absolutely, and given that she is the French finance minister and takes the job on next week at the IMF, she's going to have to kind of shift her allegiances a little bit, taking account of the fact that the IMF has members beyond the main economies in Europe. And in fact, there's going to be a lot of pressure on her to allow a greater say for non-European countries in the IMF. They're the ones these days that have all the dosh.
Well, indeed, so that's what she was promising, wasn't it, when she went across to South America the other day?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons she got the job, because it does seem that she's prepared to take account of the wishes of the broader IMF community rather than just pandering to her European counterparts.
James Shugg, it's great to talk to you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Ticky.